Hello. Oh, not wearing any rings. I always do this. 1 second. So this video is gonna be a little bit different than my other videos, but I saw a few different people do what I read in 2022 videos, and this thing, ew, you can see all my nasty little fingerprints. I have a case, I just haven't put it on. Ew! I got this for Christmas, and this is obviously a Kindle, and this has changed the game. So I have always been a big reader, not like other girls, you guys, but I was that kid that was like obsessed with reading, and I've always been a big reader. And then when I started just getting busier and moving around, I stopped reading as much because I just wasn't carrying things around with me. And then I picked up reading on my first contract. Again, I was reading on my lunch breaks. I mentioned this in my goals video that I want to read more, but I started reading again on my first contract, and then last contract I bought a bunch of books, and now I have this. So I put everything into my Goodreads and actually read a lot more books than I thought I'd read this year. I think I'm close to like 25, which isn't anything crazy because some of them were just like me sitting and reading them at work. Yeah, I thought I would just go through my what I read and how I rated things. I have my Goodreads pulled up here. I'll leave my Goodreads link down below if you want to add me. But I want to preface this by saying that my preferred genre is maybe not what you expect. Everyone who I've seen do these videos have a lot of like Colleen Hoover, which don't get me wrong, I do have in there, but a lot of like romance, maybe some smut, good for you. I lean more thriller, horror even more than thriller. I like thriller, but I would say I lean even more horror. Some of these are like extreme horror. There's someone on TikTok, I'll try and track down his name, but he put up this TikTok. If I can put it up here, I will. And I basically just bought a bunch of these books because I'm someone that's always just like trying to push whatever I can, just to see the boundaries, you know? So I have a book folder collection on TikTok. Baker reads. So this guy, he reads a lot of like horror, thriller, splatterpunk style books. So a bunch of these I got from him. So if you are someone that doesn't like horror, you don't like gore, you don't like extremity, a lot of these books are not going to be for you. I'll try and put, not necessarily trigger warnings, but like little asterisks, is that what they're called, beside those books. So some of them are like feel-good books, some of them are not. First I think I'll go through the books that I'm reading right now, because I'm honestly probably going to finish at least one of these before the end of the year. There's still like, well, there's one more day in the year, but I'm sure I could finish one of these today. So right now I am reading I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I just started it. I'm really enjoying it so far. Skin Flicks, I'm like halfway through. Tweak by Nick Sheff, I'm like halfway through as well. So those are the 3 books that I'm kind of playing with right now. I'm not normally someone that can read more than 1 book at a time, but when they're very different, like genres, then I can. And Skin Flicks is a collection of short stories similar to Haunted by like Chuck Palahniuk, so I stopped after one of the short stories. Like I said, I don't have any of the books to hold up here right now because all my books are on the ship or I've donated them, so I'm at home right now, so I don't have those. This is a very long intro, but we're going to hop into it. First, we have Someone's Listening. This book was gifted to me by a guest who came on the cruise, actually. I give it 4 stars. I'll read a little bit of the synopsis. Faith Finley has it all. She's a talented psychologist with a flourishing career, a best-selling author, until one night everything goes horribly wrong and her life is shattered forever. Liam is missing, gone without a trace. The police are suspicious of everything Faith says. They either think she has something to hide or she's lost her mind. So basically, her husband dies, goes missing, and it's like a psychological thriller about that side. This book, actually, I gave it 4 stars, but now that I'm remembering this book, I would give it 5 stars. If you want like a good psychological thriller, this one's actually really good. It's not too long. It's 400 pages, but it's nothing crazy. Like some of my top books of the year were like really long. My favorite book of the year probably was like almost 700 pages. So if you want a good psychological thriller, Someone's Listening is a good one. This book, I don't really remember it that much, but The Woods by HARLAN COBEN, there's a Netflix show based off of this, but it's basically like teenagers disappear at a summer camp years and years ago, and then people are trying to solve the mystery. It's like a mystery. It isn't YA, but it leads a little bit more YA than some of the other books for sure. I give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I don't think it was anything like amazing, But again, if you want like a little bit of a lighter read, doesn't say how many pages it is, but I don't think this was a very long read because I think I got through it quick. 400 pages. So it's more of like a mystery than like a thriller or a horror for sure. Okay, here's where we get into the books that I enjoyed but would not recommend to people. If you are looking for something that is absolutely horrific and has 1,000,001 trigger warnings, I present you The Slob from Erin Beauregard. This, I can't even describe this book. It was literally listed as like books that people couldn't finish. It was like just gross. It's definitely full splatterpunk, extreme horror. I've definitely read worse since, but I'll just read you a little bit of the synopsis. Raised in a household that was so filthy it was stomach spilling, Vera has become a neat freak. Her obsession with cleanliness spouts from the concept that her skills can be put in a unique way. In an effort to generate some income for her and her disabled husband Daniel prior to the birth of their first child, she takes aim at booming door-to-door sales in the late 80s. All's going well until she arrives at the steps of a house she wished she never had. The steps of an evil that bring back the ghastly memories she was so desperately tried to wash away. Nothing will prepare you for the nastiness, disorder, and uncleanliness and horror brought forth by the slob. It is very graphic, you can tell from the cover. I still give it 4 out of 5 stars because I do think it is very well written. Some of these books, like one of the other books that I read last week, not well written, just shock value. I think this was shock value, but also was like decently well written. But again, if you can't handle 1,000,001 trigger warnings, I wouldn't read this. I would look up the triggers first. Okay, my battery's dying. Hold please. Next one is The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. I have a few other Jack Ketchum books that are like in my like TBR saved in my library here. He has some stuff on Kindle Unlimited. I think The Girl Next Door is also on Kindle Unlimited. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars and I actually really enjoyed it. It's based on a true story as far as I know. I don't remember whose true story, but I heard it was based on a true story. But it's basically a story of these boys that like not break into a house but discover something suspicious happening in the neighborhood, and there's a girl being held captive in someone's basement and how they like handle going through it. It leans more horror than mystery for sure. It has some like gruesome details, so again probably some trigger warning things here because it's not like great in that sense, but it is a really interesting read. And I think of all of the like horror splatterpunk kind of authors, Jack Ketchum is definitely one of the ones that's like actually a good author, even better than the last one. Like I think Erin Beauregard is good at like horrific writing. I think Jack Ketchum is genuinely a good author. This is where we get into books that were just bad. I don't even know how I found this book. I think it must have been on TikTok again, but The Fetishists by A.S. Comer. I gave this 2 stars and I feel like that was generous. I don't even know what was happening in this book. Synopsis says Jeff Wellman is a lawyer and has everything. He also has a particular taste when it comes to pleasure, and what Jeff doesn't have he can purchase. His friend Richard visits him in the office one day with a contract and invitation for a fetish auction by a new company. Bad Pain Entertainment guarantees to have what he is looking for. I'm not going to go into the details because it talks about a specific weird fetish. Not to kink shame, but and then basically he gets like wrapped up in this world and then he becomes a part of it. I just like didn't care. This book wasn't that long. It was 176 pages, but I was like paining myself to get through it. I would not recommend it. Even if you just want something messed up, there's way more messed up and well written and actually interesting books. For a lighter note, we have The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. Christina Lauren has a lot of like big, lighthearted, romantic comedy type vibes. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. It is so predictable. Like, you know exactly what's gonna happen, but that's kind of the fun of it. No one goes into these books like expecting twists and turns. Like, you read the first page, you know what's gonna happen. It's fun. There's like a little bit of spice. It's got like bad jokes. It's very cheesy, but if you want a super lighthearted, fun romantic comedy style read this one. General synopsis: maid of honor, best man don't get along, couple gets sick, non-refundable honeymoon. They have to go on the honeymoon together. Guess what happens on the honeymoon? So I enjoyed this, especially between all of like the really like depraved dark reads that I have in between. This is like a nice palate cleanser. So it's nothing amazing, but I like this a lot more than like the romance that are like, I don't know, like, again, like Colleen Hoover, enjoyed some of the books. This is like lighthearted. Colleen Hoover is not lighthearted. Now on to a nonfiction book, which I didn't really read very many this year, but Atomic Habits by James Clear. I give this 4-star. I really like it. I do think this is a book that's definitely like a life-changing kind of read, especially going into the new year. If you haven't read this, I would recommend it. I don't know if it's on Kindle Unlimited, but it might be, but I really recommend it. I would say the 3 like really famous self-help nonfiction type books would be Atomic Habits, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and You Are a Badass. I really didn't like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I read this probably 2 years ago. I don't know if I thought I didn't like it because I didn't like male authors, but then I read Atomic Habits and I liked Atomic Habits. Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck was just like annoying to me, and You Are a Badass was like almost a little bit too girl powery. I think I like things to be a little bit more like clinical almost, and Atomic Habits is really good at like setting up not exercises or homework, but clear examples. I really enjoyed it. If you haven't read it and you're looking for like a motivational but not preachy kind of book, I would say read it. If there was like a 4.5 stars, I would give it 4.5 stars, but I gave it 4 because like it's not perfect, but I really enjoyed it. Now to a like more YA book for sure. We have We Were Liars from E. Lockhart. This is a really famous book. I picked it up on a whim. It was like $10. I gave it 4 stars because I really liked it. I don't think it was predictable, but I wasn't shocked by the twist at the end. But in general, sometimes books like are just boring and you're like dying to get through to it, and you know there's a twist at the end, you're just trying to get through the twist. I kind of enjoyed the story along the way. It wasn't perfect by any means, like I said. If I had, I'd say it's like a 3.5 again if I could do half points, but I gave it a 4. It's an easy read, it's pretty short, it's definitely leaning towards a younger audience, so it's not like a difficult read to get through. So if you just want a quick, easy kind of mystery YA novel, it's more like lighthearted but still sad, if that makes any sense. It's kind of related to it, but A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I actually really like this. Some people said they hated it. I think it was Nicole who said that she hated it. Again, it's a YA mystery. It's about a girl who does a school case to, not like an unsolved murder, but basically an unsolved murder, but everyone's blaming the boyfriend of the girl who died, who then ended his life due to the whole circumstance. So she's working with the accused brother basically, but then a bunch of things happen along the way. I don't want to spoil it, but again, it's a mystery, it's YA. If you want something that's like an easy read, a relatively quick read, I mean it's 400 pages, but I went through it pretty quickly. But if you want a read that's like interesting and fast-paced, I think this is a really good one. Not that it has any crazy twists, but it kept me interested enough that it wasn't like super predictable too, which was nice. Now, this is my favorite book of the year, and I can't recommend it enough. I will say it took me a little bit to get into. It is a 700-page book. I'll give it that, but this is Pretty Girls by Karin Slaughter. This book, at no point did I have any idea where it was going. You don't understand who is related, you don't understand the relationship dynamic, you don't understand who's missing. It's super interesting. I'll read you the plot synopsis, even though I don't think this will describe the book at all. 20 years ago, Claire Scott's eldest sister Julia went missing. No one knew where she went, no note, no body. It was a mystery that was never solved, and it tore her family apart. Now another girl disappeared with chilling echoes of the past, and it seems like she might not be the only one. Claire is convinced Julia's disappearance is linked, but when she begins to learn the truth about her sister, she's confronted with a shocking discovery, and nothing will ever be the same. It's a shocking discovery. There's twists literally until the last like 3 pages. It'll probably take you a while to read because like I said, it's 700 pages, but I think this is my favorite book of the year. It was really good. I'm dying to read more Karin Slaughter. I just need to figure out which one to read because she has like 1,000,001 books. But it's a thriller, it's a mystery, but it doesn't have any like crazy gore or like disgusting things like some of my other reads that I mentioned have had. I'm sure there's something I'm missing in here. I remember reading, oh my god, what was it? There was like a series that was like a fake, oh, I wish I remember what it was called. A guest gave me a book on the cruise, and it was like a series that was a reimagining of Frankenstein? I don't know, I didn't really enjoy it, so I wouldn't recommend it, but there's definitely other books that aren't on this list, just so you know. The lighting keeps changing, it's because this is my computer screen. We Know Where We Love Her. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I gave it 3 stars. I feel like everyone and their mom has read this book. I enjoyed it. Was it the greatest thing in the whole world? My next book, is also Ugly Love, which I also gave 3 stars. I think I liked Ugly Love a little bit more. I do own It Starts With Us, I think, which is like the prequel to It Ends With Us. I don't know. Some people have a problem with like the violence and the abuse perpetuated in Colleen Hoover books, which that doesn't really bug me. I just am kind of like, I don't really care much about the characters, I find. Ugly Love, I found the characters to be way more likable than It Ends With Us, so maybe that's why I liked it a little bit more. I'm kind of like neutral. I don't remember if I read it this year or last year. I think I read it last year because I'm pretty sure I read it when I was in my old apartment still. Loved Verity. I know that's controversial. Some people really don't like Verity. I think it's because I lean more horror, thriller, mystery in general, but I love Verity. Like, I'd give that probably 5 stars. It's not the best book in the whole world, but I think it's a much more interesting read than either of these. So It Ends With Us and Ugly Love, both by Colleen Hoover, both got 3 stars. They're both like romance novels. I feel like everyone's heard of them, so I'm not going to elaborate too much. Okay, Goodreads is not letting me pull up one of these books. This book is not well known. It was on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm gonna just straight up say that I don't like this author at all. This was a short story, which is why I downloaded it. It's called Roe v. Wade. It's by Matt Shaw. I gave it 2 stars. It was whatever. When I'm saying that there's some authors that write horror and splatterpunk just for the sake of writing disgusting things, this is this guy. I don't think it was that well written. I don't think it was that exciting of a concept. There is no synopsis on here because only like 60 people have it on their shelf on Goodreads because it's not really a well-known book, but it literally says in the front of the book, this is an extreme horror. There is potentially upsetting scenes. If easily affected, please do not read. So I was like, oh, maybe it'll be interesting. It's basically a social commentary on Roe v. Wade. It takes place 10 years in the future, and it's basically a story about how the government is running abortion clinics, but not abortion clinics because abortion is legal, and the government is running government-funded facilities to house women who have unwanted pregnancies to birth the child. But then there's like a twist at the end that doesn't really make any sense. I don't know. There's also like some weird undertones about race in there, not like from the author being racist, from like the government being racist, which like, yes, but it was very weird and touched on for like 2 pages and then never touched on again. I don't know. It just felt like it was like a cheap shot, and even mentions in the book, like the first 2 pages of the book are like notes from the author that are like, you probably don't want to read this, and I was like, yeah, but I don't know. It came out literally a couple months ago after this whole Roe v. Wade thing happened, which makes me feel like he just like did it for clicks. I don't know. I read one of his other books that I'm not even going to talk about because it's so horrendous that no one should read it. If you want to know what book it is, I guess I could tell you, but it's actually bad writing and bad subject matter and not interesting, so wouldn't recommend it. I have one more of his books, I think, in my library because I try to give everyone a chance, but between all of like the extreme horror authors, he is by far my least favorite. I have Sick Bastards by him also downloaded right now, but it's basically about a family and nuclear attack. We'll see. I think that's his most famous book, but I have really low expectations because, like I said, I just think I don't like this man's writing. And then this was the last book that I finished in completion, and this is The Groomer by John Athen. Actually, a few of his other books downloaded. This book is messed up. I'll say that. It's basically the story of children getting kidnapped for child trafficking to create snuff films, and then it switches back and forth between the view of the kidnapper and the view of the father, and the father basically goes on like a vigilante mission to try and find these kidnappers who took his daughter because he doesn't think the police are doing enough. Again, crazy trigger warnings for assault, abuse against children, all that fun stuff, but I did give it 4 stars. I think it's a pretty interesting read. I think he's a pretty good author. I'm gonna see if he has any other interesting books, because I do like the way that he writes. I don't think it's anything like spectacular or amazing, but I thought it was an interesting read. So if you're someone who likes kind of like the extreme horror genre, then go for it. Here it just says, this character grows concerned for his family after he catches a young man photographing his daughter and other children at the park. To dismay, the The photographer talks his way out of trouble when confronted by the police. He hopes this will be an end. He sees that he's basically stalking him. Leads dry up. He decides to take matters into his own hands. Searching for sex offenders in his area and researching enhanced interrogation techniques, and he convinces himself that he'll do anything to rescue his daughter, unaware of the evil that he'll face in the journey. He's willing to hurt, to torture anyone to save his family. So that's basically what I said. But like I said, graphic content, violent, I would say full horror genre, not even thriller mystery at this point, but interesting. I know this is already going to be a very long video probably, but I thought I'd go over a few books that I have downloaded that I'm looking into reading. All of these are books that are on Kindle Unlimited. I have books that are on my list also to purchase, but this is just on my Kindle Unlimited. Like I said, Sick Bastards by Matt Shaw. I don't like this man's writing. I don't like it one bit. I don't know why I'm giving it another chance, but I'm trying. We're gonna try. If I don't like this book, it's the last one, because I think he's just not a good writer. Not that Matt Shaw would ever read this or watch this video, but if he did, I'm not even sorry. Like I said, I'm glad my mom died. I'm reading right now. They have the YouTube formula, which this is kind of like an old book at this point, but it was in my cart for forever on Amazon. It's basically like a book about the algorithm of YouTube, which like I'm not super worried about, but I think it's just interesting. Halfway through reading Skin Flicks, which is a collection of short stories. If you've ever heard of Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk, which I think was kind of like the first extreme horror that went mainstream in books. That one is more of like a story, and then it has short stories off of the main story. This is just a collection of 3 short stories. The first one I read, messed up but very interesting, and I actually enjoyed the read, I will say, so we'll see. And then I have a couple of like self-helpy books. I have Master Your Emotions by this person whose name that I'm not even gonna try and pronounce, which is, it says, a practical guide to overcoming negativity and to better manage your feelings, which like, am I a little mentally ill? Yes, but it had really good reviews, so we're gonna see. Tweak, like I said, by Nick Sheff. I'm kind of having a hard time getting through this at this point. It's just like dragging on for me, but it's what the movie Beautiful Boy that Timothée Chalamet and Steve Carell starred in. I think it only came out last year, but this is the book that it's based on. It's based on a true story. It's basically his story of relapsing from a methamphetamine addiction and then going back into rehab and like recovering again. Like I said, I'm only halfway through the book, but it's getting kind of boring to me a little bit. So we'll see. I will always finish a book. I simply can't not finish a book. It's not in my DNA, but it's paining me a little bit at this point to get through. It, for some reason, will put A Lonely Section in Hell sample constantly in my library. I've already read the book. Why is it there? I don't know, but thank you. On the whole role of John Athen, who wrote The Groomer, I have Lovesick, which I think is his most famous book, Dead Body Disposal, and Into the Wolf's Den, all in my library. I'm not going to tell you what any of them are about because I don't remember, but like I said, I really enjoyed his writing. So we'll see. I have the Hallucinations by Aaron Beauregard. He's the one who wrote The Slob. Son of Slob came out last year, but it's not on Kindle Unlimited. It is, I think, only like $6, so I'll probably buy it at some point. But this one is like drug-based, so we'll see. Again, back to self-help, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was just there. It was like the first book it recommended. So I said, okay. I have Offspring, also by Jack Ketchum. So he wrote The Girl Next Door. I think this is also his most famous read, besides maybe Girl Next Door. And again, all these are on Kindle Unlimited. So usually if it's because I wanted to read an author, I did it because I took whichever one was free. A local sheriff at Dead River, Maine thought he had killed them off 10 years ago. A primitive cave-dwelling tribe of cannibalistic savages, but somehow the clan survived to breed, to hunt, to kill, and to eat. Now the peaceful residents of an isolated town are fighting for their lives. We'll see. I have The Intercepts by T.J. Payne. Joe works at a factory that performs human experiments. His work followed him home. The government wanted to unlock hidden abilities of the human mind by extreme sensory deprivation. Yeah, like I said, a human factory. But that one actually had pretty good reviews. 2 books by Lucinda Berry. I have Saving Noah and The Perfect Child. Both of them were like pretty well rated, so we'll try both of those. Nicole wanted me to read the Mindfuck series. Sorry if I'm outing you right now, Nicole. So I have the first book in the Mindfuck series downloaded as well. What else do we even have in here? I think that's it. Oh, and then I have Cows by Matthew Stocco. I don't know. This book, I know I'm gonna hate it because I already don't eat meat. But this was a book that was listed in like books that people couldn't even finish. They were so bad, like trigger horror bad, not bad as in like badly written. So I have it here and I've been putting off reading it. But that is kind of my TBR. That is what is in the pipeline for reading next year. Those are kind of the books that I'm looking forward to reading next year, or that I have downloaded so far. If you have any recommendations, let me know, or if you know people that did what they read in 2022 videos, also let me know, because like I said, I'm super into this. Reading is now my new thing again, so let me know. I hope you enjoyed. I'll try to leave a link to all the books down below on Amazon, because like I said, a lot of them are on Kindle Unlimited, so you can get them for free or for a really good deal. All my links to everything else are down below. I do try and update a book review highlight on my Instagram as well, so as I read books they go up there. So if you want to see like little snippets of these reviews of the books I talked about here and books that I read in 2021, because I actually did a pretty decent amount of reading in 2021, you can check that out as well. And I will see you guys in like probably a week. Bye.